Hey everybody, and welcome back to the amazing horror film lovers. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I'm here with my co-host,
Michael McGlynn.
Michael McGlynn, my lovely co-host. How are you doing, Michael?
Very good, brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I love when you say brother because it reminds me of the let's go, brother, kind of, wrestling stuff, which I know you're into. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. Are you wearing a Surge? That looks like a Surge. No, Slasher. Oh, it's a Slasher 15 shirt that looks like, swear to God, that looked like Surge. Remember the
Actually, you were all right. That's actually it is a Splasher 15 shirt, but we actually did it with the slurred style of kind of like design.
That's awesome, dude. Um, so we're gonna dive into this. We're gonna be talking about the 2003 film Wrong Turn, not the 2000, was it 2020, I think, or 2021? Which one did the new one come out?
Uh, like it was definitely in the 2020s. It might have even been like possibly 2022 even.
Nope, nope, no, was not because I was still living in California when that happened. So that's why wondering if it's 2020 or 2021. I think it's 2020 because I remember I watched it at my old house, my old apartment, and was it in California? Because I was I think I watched it with my roommate or I watched it by myself, but I remember sitting on that couch getting really excited because we were doing horror Blood and Coffee and reviewing it for that. And I was excited, and then I was very fucking let down by the movie, you
I
know.
was going to joke, wow, it was so bad it made you move.
And pretty much I was like, screw LA now. Now this movie made me, hate LA. I don't know. No, it didn't do that. But it did it was not a very good movie, in my opinion. And it was written by the same writer. And so really disappoints me that he just and I have a theory on that. Because if you watch the movie, this movie, it takes place in West Virginia, right? And it's
Mhm.
about was it disfigured cannibal guys, right? In
Impressed.
the inbred cannibal guys. The other movie takes place in Virginia and is about like a cult. And they mention they mention was it the uh was it cannibals or no they mentioned oh he's gonna rent a movie about cannibalistic people or whatever. I'm sick of that or something like that, right? They kind of mention it, but funny because in Wrong Turn they mention oh my God, I hope this isn't part of some cult. So
Mhm.
it's weird if you look back at both of those movies, they both have that cross thing and it's the same guy writing them. So I'm wondering if he did that on purpose, or whatever. Like he was getting stoned one day and he was trying to come up with a new idea for Wrong Turn and he rewatched Wrong Turn and he's like, that idea of a cult would be fun, but we can't do it in West Virginia with cannibals. We got to do it in Virginia without cannibals, you know? So I don't know.
Part of it might, I think part of it was too is poor timing on trying to do that. It was like if you made that movie right after the first one, I think that might have meshed a little better. That people would have gotten that, or maybe even picked up on like oh okay, they're flipped the script now. But when you have a pretty like I would say overall a pretty successful franchise. I mean, just like a lot of these franchises, like they have hit and misses in the franchises. Some were better than others, but it's had a longevity and enough that they've become a mainstay. So once you've gotten to that pinnacle and then you try to flip it to something else, it's probably not going to resonate with a lot of people.
I don't know because they did what is it? They did Chud 2, Bud the Chud after Chud 1 and people hated that. Like my co-host Paul for Indie Film Cafe, we did an episode of Bud the Chud, and I loved it because I had never seen it before, and it was like up my scary dark scary alley. It was the perfect thing for me. For him, he hated it because he went to the theater after, after seeing the first Chud and was so excited to see Chud 2, and it was nothing like Chud 1. It was absolutely nothing like there were no Chuds really, like real, the Chuds that were in number one, that wasn't a thing. It was zombies or something. And I loved it because it reminded me of that video game, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. And so I was like, Chud 2 just reminded me of like a live action Zombies Ate My Neighbors. This is perfect for me, you know? Um, but for which I still think should be made into a movie, but I don't know, maybe they've done enough zombie movies where they're, whatever, that it just wouldn't work out. I don't know. So anyway, I think maybe it might not have worked because then, or Halloween 3, if they had made a Halloween 3 right after Halloween, instead of doing part two, I think that might have been okay, but might have also pissed a lot of people off because it pissed a lot of people off, that it was made after after part two. And it's one of my favorite movies too. So I love that kind of shit, I guess,
Yeah, no, and I like Halloween 3 itself. I mean, it's kind of one of those classic cases where, like, if you had just named that movie anything else, it probably would have stood as a standalone cult classic for Halloween time, I think. Uh, but because you put that label on it as a part of that franchise, and that franchise is just so synonymous for Myers that I mean, it's hard to deviate from that. I mean, even though I have no problem when I watch the Halloween series, I throw that in the mix. Even though it's not correlated to the Myers, it's still technically a part of the franchise. But uh, I feel like if you named it any other thing, it would have been better. For me, it's also kind of like the Child's Play reboot. My wife and I both felt that, you know what, if you all just named this like a different movie, you could have kept everything else the same. The voice
except
acting.
for the doll, like because they did call him Chucky, I believe,
Uh,
So if they didn't call him Chucky or whatever, and they called him something else because
yeah,
they even
but
made him look different, you know. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. They named him. They actually named him Buddy in this one, and that's what we're like. Well, you could just name him Buddy, or just name anything else. It's not like it wasn't a great time to make another Killer Doll franchise because I mean, you already had the Annabelle series that was starting to that was already taken off. The Child's Play series was already taken off, so there was already a lot of love and fandom coming back for that subgenre anyway. So
yeah.
I just and also Megan, of course. I almost
Well,
forgot.
that was after, and a lot of people compare Child's Play 2019 to Megan. Like they're basically the same movie if you think about it, or whatever. So
Right.
it did the smart thing, they were smart. They made it a female doll and they made it a like they just switched it up. So
Mhm.
it wasn't the same movie. And they did a really good job. And I love Megan. I'm excited for Megan too. Like I think that's coming out next year if I'm correct. And I'm all for it, you
Oh,
know?
I have too. Like what I liked most about Megan, like Megan to me kind of felt like a modern remake of Dolly Dearest.
Yeah. Yeah, and the modern thing is the fact that we do have dolls like this. We have robotic dolls and everything that exist. What if it got out? But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about
Yeah.
Wrong Turn. We go off topic a lot on all my shows, so maybe it's me. But yeah, so when it came to Wrong Turn, this Wrong Turn, let's completely go back to this. This was created by Alan McElroy, I think is his name. And he's the writer. The director of it, I believe, if I'm correct, was that Rob Schmidt who directed it? If I'm if I'm right. Yeah, Rob Schmidt. Really good names, damn. Um, he had done something else that I really liked. Well, he did a movie called Speed for Life that I I used to see at the video store and Crime and Punishment in Suburbia. Um, but man, I really wanted him to like. I thought he did a dragon movie or something. Is that somebody else? Am I thinking of another Rob? Um, do you know what I'm talking about? Like Dragon Slayer or something? Not
Uh,
Dragon Slayer, Dragon. Uh,
that was a classic of mine as a kid growing up. In my opinion, absolutely phenomenal effects for the time.
yeah, that was a good one. But I'm thinking of like there was a 1998 Dragon movie. I'm trying to think who's the director of that because I keep maybe that's
Uh,
the director of the Skulls.
I would say from mid there, I was going to ask, like, are you thinking of Dragonheart with Connery?
Yes. So for some reason, I get Rob Cohen, who directed The Skulls and Dragonheart with Sean Connery, mixed up with Rob Schmidt. I mean, they're both named Rob, but for some reason, I don't know. I think it's The Skulls came out a little earlier than Wrong Turn, but to me, they've always kind of been lumped in, like even though they're different movies, I kind of always lump them in together. So, I don't know, but yeah. So there you go. I'm wrong. Rob Schmidt did. I want him. He did another movie called The Alphabet Killer. And but this movie was amazing. What?
Of the alphabet killer like it rings a bell. I was just saying that like I think I might have watched it. I can't remember it, but it rings a bell.
Yeah. So this movie, I was listening to basically some of the commentary for it, and Rob was talking about how when they were coming up with the idea for it, they wanted to do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 70s horror style movies, but done in 2003, you know? So they wanted it to be where it was a group of people who are stuck out somewhere where they can't get, can't escape and they have to deal with something. And in Texas Chainsaws, thing it was the family, the Saw his family. And in this it is and this is just a cannibalistic family, I guess. I don't know. There's no uh in this one there's no like mother or anything. It's just a little weird, but it's just like a bunch of men who are all like looks weird, you know?
Yeah. You really don't start getting much of an origin story on them, to be honest, until part four, Deadly Resort. That's when you actually start getting a little bit more of a backstory about who they are, where they came from, and stuff. But I mean, it's kind of one of those ones where I like. It's like for this film and for coming around the gates, I'm glad they left it in the unknown. I mean, it's like you know I mean, because I think it helped with a lot of the early classics and stuff. Kind of like the Friday the 13th, or even Michael Myers. It's like you knew why, he was killing the insane asylum, but you didn't know why he was targeting, and that was just something that got built up and more of a backstory over the seasons. So I think they went the right direction, and especially about trying to hit that Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe, but done in an early 2000s era. I would say they've actually probably nailed it. If I'm to be perfectly honest with you, especially some of the scenes that you do see. There is definitely cannibalism shown in this movie, and there are definitely scenes of people being butchered like they were at a butcher shop in this movie, just similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um,
Hmm.
so I mean, I would say if that was the angle they were going for, then kudos, you absolutely nailed it in my opinion.
Definitely. So Last Resort was I think six, and that was with like Sadie Katz. I remember that because I watched it before I interviewed her,
Oh,
and
okay.
I looked it up because I was like, wait, that's the one with Sadie Katz, right? And then I looked up and said
Yeah,
six,
yeah.
but
When they get trapped at that abandoned ski resort. Well, actually, it's not a ski resort. It's an abandoned asylum. But while they were like skiing and stuff in the snow, they got trapped.
Yep, and but they weren't like like mutated like looking people. They looked normal, which was interesting, if I'm
I,
correct.
I thought they looked mutated in that one still.
Maybe some of them did, but I remember Sadie looking normal, you know, like she looked like a normal person. I never would have, and I think she was one of the killers and not, not one of the skiers or whatever. But I don't know. It's been a while since I saw it, so I could be wrong, but that's what I remember. Um, but anyway, let's move on from that because I don't think we both know the answer to that necessarily right now. But yeah, in this one, yeah, there's no explanation, but I think that makes it even scarier because the one thing, I think the biggest thing, well, the one thing that like Texas Chainsaw did that was really good was make it look like it was real, you know? So
Hmm.
like, they had like the news thing at the beginning about this is based on a true story of this thing that happened and blah blah blah, which it wasn't, but they had to tell you this stuff so you once you start watching, you're like, wait, is this real? Like, what's going on? And you
And
watch
when
this?
John Larroquette to voice it,
You did such a great job.
he
Um,
did.
I will tell you, I've talked about this on the Night of the Living Dead show, I think, that I did, where we reviewed that for Criterion Watch. And I was not a fan of Texas Chainsaw originally. Just that or Night of the Living Dead. I don't like movies that start out slow to me. And then like now I've gotten, a better with the tension and sticking it through. Um but I never liked slow burns, and until recently I started watching a bunch of slow burns, and I'm actually sort of, as long as like it keeps me interested. Like House of the Devil was a little bit of a slow burn in the
Oh,
beginning, but it
we
got
both ended
better.
up in it.
Right, and it ended up becoming really, really good. But that's because that was directed by Ty West, who's a really fucking good director, and everything. And I'm looking forward to us doing The Innkeepers at some point. And that's also by Ty West, I believe. So, um, but yeah, so this movie starts out with well, it starts out with the people doing that mountain climbing, thing, and you sort of you just see a couple that are doing this together, and then the boyfriend gets killed, and the girl she has to drop herself to get away from getting pulled up to being killed, you know, and everything, and then she ends up getting killed anyway, which
Ooh.
kind of sucks, and you find out later that just like that's what they do is they find these people that are around this area and they just murder them, you know, and everything. So, but what I liked about it was there was no talk about like we're in an area that we're not supposed to be, and this just seemed like any mountain that they're climbing or whatever. Like I don't think it's, whatever that was that they were climbing up, you know, right? Like it seemed like anybody could be there, like it didn't.
I mean, well, even when you saw the aesthetics, like, I mean, it was like, thousands and thousands of acres of just mountainous terrain, like untapped. And like, it's kind of one of those things where like, even like which isn't really jumping that far ahead, but when our lead stops off at that gas station, you see all those missing people. You almost don't even give it a second thought. You're like, well, out in this country, it is so easy to get lost in these terrains and not be found again. I mean, heck, it actually happened to a former Hollywood horror star, too, Julian Sands. He went out backpacking, hiking out on the mountainous trail, the mountainous trails in California, and Unfortunately, he had an accident out there, and it was like months later before they could find him. But
It's
he
so
was from
sad. What?
Arachnophobia and Warlock, the Stephen King movie Rose Red.
Yeah, no, I love Julian Sands, and I was sad when I heard it, but I was like thinking when I heard it, I was like, why wasn't he with anybody? You know, like I
He was
hate
very
to.
experienced. I mean, apparently, like he was not some hobbyist. Like this guy was apparently from what I've heard, Julian Sands was like very like legit. Like that man knew those trails like what was considered like a senior level like on acknowledgement. I just think that he hit a spot where normally he would have been fine, but I think it was bad weather conditions or something that he got caught up in something. I
That's
agree with you wholeheartedly. You should have had a friend at least.
something, somebody or whatnot, but especially if you're going to be in an area that probably doesn't have cell phone, power, and everything, like you're not going to be able to call anybody or get in touch or whatever. Freaking bring somebody. And that really made me sad. Like, I was like, if he had just brought somebody, he might still be alive. He might. I'm not saying that because they could have both been dead, but if one of them survived and got free, they could have at least let people know ahead of time, what happened and things like that. So, this is a note to people like, do what these people did in the beginning of the movie. Go together, you know. Even if you both die, you know.
We should take someone with you.
At least you took somebody. Well, I mean, I guess it sounds sad because you took somebody also to die, but um, but like you have the better better chance of surviving. Um, so our lead guy, is I guess he's going out for a job interview, from I forgot where Pennsylvania, I think. Is he from Pennsylvania? And he's traveling down to like North Carolina.
I think it was something along those lines. Yeah, like it was definitely it was for a position to be a doctor somewhere because he just finished up med school.
So he was going down to North Carolina, and his and the highway, the main highway was like it's just too much traffic. And if he had just waited, this is also another thing. Fucking people, be more patient. You might live longer, you know. So this movie has a couple different things to it. But so he turns around because he talks to that one guy. I love that scene where he comes up to the truck guy, the guy in the truck, and he's like, "Hey, do you know what's going on?" Blah blah blah, and the guy knows just as much as he knows, and the guy's a complete ass to him, you know, and it's like, what does he say? Like, why don't you get in your car and just fucking wait, or something like that, you know? And so it's like this guy's, whatever, being a dick. So he goes and sits in his car and he can't wait. He can't do it. So what does he do? Just drives right off the other opposite direction and comes up to that the gas station to have a because his cell phone didn't get service in that area. So he went to the payphone at that thing and you saw all those missing posters. And you saw that man who ran the man, that guy was a character in himself. And apparently that actor really looks like that. Like that's not a lot of makeup, you know. I saw some of his other pictures, other things. He looks a lot like that, you know. They just picked a guy. Like some actors are really good because, they look like, hillbillies or whatever, and that's what they can play, you know.
Well, they have a certain niche that they have a good fit for, and it's just easy to work with it. With that image.
Mm-hmm. So he gets the phone call, but the phone's not working, and he's got nowhere else to, so he asks about the one area by that map, and the guy's like, basically, don't go there. when somebody tells you like don't do it, you know, I mean, I don't understand this shit, you know. But if he hadn't shown up, those all four of those people would have been fucked.
Oh,
Like
they all
me.
would have been slaughtered.
Um, yeah, because I don't know if they would have yeah, I don't know what they would have done. Because he sort of kind of took charge of the group. But anyway, let's kind of going ahead. He drives down the road and he's going way too fast. And he's going because he's speeding, he's trying to get to where he needs to get to.
He's
And
on it. Let that also be a lesson to you all. Don't be on your phones and drive at the same time.
well, especially if you're going really fast and you don't know the area, that's a dumbass thing to do. So he crashes into a parked car that already, that was parked because they were driving and they got like their tire got blown out
Mhm.
uh from these spikes that were in the middle of the road. And they thought just somebody left them there or whatever, and they found out that they must have left them there on purpose to like fuck people's cars up and stuff. And they don't know why, but I would have that's the first question I would have been asking. And I would have been like, I don't feel comfortable. Like, you know,
It was
like
it's a scary little sabotaging prank. It's kind of like, yeah, you're not going anywhere now, kind of prank. And those are pretty scary. It's like, why don't you want me going anywhere?
I know. So, what's his name? So the main guy, I'm not gonna just say the main guy. What was his name? I'm really bad with names now. I know the guy was Desmond Harrington, who I like a lot.
He's from your favorite movie with your absolutely favorite ending of all times in Ghost Ship.
Ah, yeah, he's in Ghost Ship. That's right. Holy shit. He's in Ghost. Wow, so he's been in two of the, kind of biggest named horror films, and he was Ferryman. That's
Yep.
right.
And he was Quinn in Dexter.
Oh, God. I gotta rewatch that. I haven't seen that show in forever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, and he was amazing. I mean, like he was there for like a good 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, like like he wasn't there in the very beginning, but he came in the later half of like
Hmm.
after I think he came on in season 3 or like 3 or 4. But
That sounds about right. And all the way up to the end, I think. It's the
yeah,
last, season. Yeah. But yeah, he's a fantastic actor and and his character is sort of he's the good looking, tough guy, he's the, whatever he's the guy that's gonna take charge and he's gonna lead, and so he meets Eliza Dushku, you know, who is single because she just broke up with her boyfriend broke up with her, dumped her. And so her friends wanted to cheer her up. And I guess they're going to a concert or something. Like that was the plan. They were going somewhere together. Um,
no, actually, they all wanted to take her to the beach,
Beach. Okay.
but she wanted to go camping instead. So they because of everything she went through, they decided to all go camping with her instead. Because they later on she blames herself because she realized because we were talking just because we
Right.
were that she in a lot of ways she kind of is the reason why they're all dead.
Right. I mean, not I mean, nobody could have expected that to happen, you know? Like that's not even in this when this movie was made, like there wasn't really many movies like this, you know? So even then she couldn't be like it's like in that scene in that movie, blah blah blah, right? Like nowadays, if somebody says, "Let's go camping," blah blah blah, people can be like, "No, thank you. I remember wrong turn and their car broke down." Because somebody, put, right, all this stuff. Back then, they had no idea that this kind of stuff would happen, so it happened, and so yeah, so their tire blew out, and there's Jeremy Sisto, who God, everybody I know, every time I bring up Jeremy Sisto, they go, I hate him. And I'm like, why? He's such a charming guy. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, I've never had the opportunity to meet Jeremy before. I can't say one way or another. I mean, but that's usually like, I mean, but some of them are just they're not all nice and sweet and pleasant to
no,
meet.
it's not, no, they don't hate him because of him personally. They hate his characters that he plays. They say he always plays somebody smarmy and whatever. And I'm like, I've seen, including this movie, he was not smarmy or
Well, he was
nasty.
the opposite. He was actually like, in my opinion, like out of all the characters, he was the biggest one. Where I was like, oh, damn it, not him.
Yeah, I wanted him to live, you
Yeah,
know.
but I was pulling for him too. Like he was the one I liked the most. He was the most likable, in my opinion.
And I think that's what makes movies like this so good is when they do that, when they kind of was it they set you up and you really like the character and then they die. And then you're like, fuck, I really wanted that guy to live. But of course you have to in a horror film you have to go through an emotional roller coaster you know if you don't, or if you're not going through an emotional roller coaster and you're just like, I don't care if anybody dies, and it happens a lot in a lot of indie films, indie horror films. You watch these movies and you're like, oh, man, can the killer just kill them all off like right now? I'd be
Yeah.
okay with that. Have you seen the trailer to that movie that Shudder is putting out? I guess it's going to the theaters first. Where it's like the killer, you're like in the POV of the killer, so you're following him around and he's going around murdering everybody.
Hmm. No, I haven't seen that one.
That looks amazing. Like literally, it looks like Friday the 13th if you just follow Jason the whole time.
Hmm.
So
Well,
like, when like Jason's out in the woods and you don't have a clue where he is,
mhm.
that's what we see. We see him walking around. He goes into places, kills people, walks back out, and we follow him. And I was like, that is the why hasn't somebody come up with that until now? Like, what in the world? That was like it's a better version of like what's that Leslie Verner or Vernon movie that came out that was supposed to be
Ooh,
sort of a document mockumentary kind of thing with like
oh,
uh Robert England was in it and a couple other
oh,
people.
oh, yeah, no, no, I know the movie you're talking about. I'm just like, oh, I'm not sure. That's a harsh statement because I'm a pretty big fan of that movie. I thought that was a very, very well done movie.
I thought it was okay. I didn't really get that much into it, but I think I don't like fake documentaries, you know? Like have they done it like Hatchet, you know? Right? Where it was a real movie, not a documentary. I probably would have liked it a little bit more, but I don't. I'm not. I want my documentaries to really be documentaries, and I want my movies to really be movies. And I don't like when they. I mean, I've never really been a fan of that, kind of thing. But that's my style. That's why I don't like found footage much. Like kind of, another thing. So, I get to a lot of people love found footage movies, and I'm just like, I want I want it to be about like, I want to see those people being murdered, but I don't want to like watch it like a documentary, like this just
For me,
also, you know what?
oh, I was gonna say for me, like for a lot of those ones, is like it's just a bunch of shaky cam, and I'm like I'm just not seeing what you're seeing. Maybe something is there and stuff, but I can't tell. But everything's just too shaky and moving for me to really see anything. It's like or just like little weird things like on those kind of movies, like like a Blair Witch or something. It's like these sticks are arranged this way, then you just see shaky cam, shaky cam, shaky cam, shaky cam. I'm just it's hard
Yeah.
to it's hard to get into the element when that's happening because I feel like you get taken out of it so much.
Yeah, it's funny. The director of Blair Witch isn't like I've added him a bunch of times. He's never added me back and everything. And I think I have this like theory that he's heard that I wasn't a big fan of Blair Witch. I just wasn't. And it was not because I get what what they did, you know? Like I get it. Like I love uh I love that they went out and they made that movie, you know? And they did it on a very, very low budget, you know? And it is amazing. Was I like, but when I look at that movie, because once again, I didn't see it like everybody else saw it, right? Everybody else heard that that was a true story, and for a long time, those actors pretended not to be in the real, you know what I mean? Like they were hidden, kind of thing.
It's
So
a hard business angle. I give him a lot of credit. I mean, and you look at what, like I said, what they put into it and what the return was. It obviously paid off in dividends for him.
exactly. But then I watch the movie just like you, and I see shaky cam, shaky cam, shaky cam, and bickering, 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 and that's all I see. And I'm like, I can't watch a movie where just people yell at each other the whole time. Like it gets boring after a while, you know? Like if they uh there's a filmmaker, Sam Qualiana, and he had directed a movie called Legend of Six Fingers. Lynn Lowry, I think, and Deborah Shawn are in it, uh and I thought that was a better Blair Witch. It was a Sasquatch movie, so it was more like Legend of Boggy Creek or whatever. But like it was a better movie than the Blair Witch in my opinion because like they put some more fun into it, and the camera angles and different stuff were just more entertaining. Like it was a more entertaining flick. If you can entertain me in those kind of things, Paranormal Activity kind of entertains me enough, keeps my interest going. But you know most of these things I'm just like kind of bored, you know like and I'm glad Wrong Turn wasn't like that, that they did not go like found footage, which they could have, because this is like right after Blair Witch, and there was a big, huge like blow up on that, stuff.
They get them more like I said because timeline wise it's very comparable. They get them more to that Hatchet SK style. Like it was more of like a nod to that 80s 70s even early 90s slasher kind of like nod where they were trying to bring that theme more back to the forefront again.
Hmm.
Um, and and like I said, they did a great job. Just like Hatchet did. I mean, they gave you some phenomenal kills. They gave you some great gore. Something that, I kind of felt like in a lot of slashers, like because we had that surge of the Scream SK slashers also going on too. Where don't get me wrong, they were great films. I really enjoyed them, but most of them, like especially the Scream ones, they just they didn't really have that gore kill factor, not like what Hatchet or like what the Wrong Turn series brought you. Those brought you the over the top gore kills and
Right.
stuff. And I just, I was just happy to see that get brought back to the forefront again because I've always been a big style of that one. I mean, I know it's a little ridiculous for some, but it's always been just so entertaining for me.
Exactly. So we forgot to mention Emmanuel Shrieky, who I'm a huge fan of. I grew up with her with Entourage, and she was in 100 Girls. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. You ever heard of it?
No, but it sounds like 99 more than I can handle.
Yeah. So 100 Girls is basically a perverted Cinderella story, It's a story of a guy who worked at a girl's dorm or whatever, like he's like the maintenance guy, and he ended up one night he ended up the power goes out in the elevator, and he's with some girl and he can't see what she looks like or whatever, and he ends up having sex and losing his virginity to this girl, and then he wakes up and she's gone. All is left is her panties,
Yeah.
and she plays this like sort of slutty girl who uh that has this like there's one great scene. I'm gonna oh that's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to really ruin much of the movie. But like the whole idea is him trying to find like matching panties, kind of thing, like and stuff, and going through girls' stuff, things that you can't do now. Like you cannot make this movie now. This movie would not be okay now.
It'd be
Um,
creepy.
it was creepy back then too. Um, but so there's one great scene where the girl has these there's like this guy chasing them that's like ex-boyfriend or whatever, and the girl's been wall balls. I don't know if you have heard of those.
Oh no.
They're things that you stick up the girl's but JJ, and then she kind of like it helps stimulate her and stuff. Well, it comes out of her and falls down and trips the guy. And it's just one of the funniest scenes out of the movie. Like I want to meet Emmanuel Shriki, just talk about that scene with her. Like if I ever got to interview her, I would die. I absolutely love her. Unfortunately, she unfortunately for me, she's too big of a star that probably will never happen. Just like Jeremy Sisto. He's on one of my favorite TV shows, FBI, you know? Like he's a big time, you know, actor. There's no way I'm gonna be able to be like, hey, can I get an interview on my podcast? No, motherfucker, go
Yeah.
away. Um, so then there's also Kevin Zegers from fucking Air Bud. That's his main, claim to fame. And he's also in probably one of your favorite movies. I don't know if you love it or not. I love it, is Frozen, not the Disney Frozen, but the Adam Green's Frozen, where
Yep.
he plays one of the guys in it, who is there's two guys and a girl who get stuck up in a ski lift, and they have to, and he's the boyfriend who meets his demise by breaking his legs. And
Very
I
nat.
I'm
Very
gonna
nat.
well we I think we reviewed it for horror film lovers already, so I can say it because just listen to that podcast or whatever. But what is it? Yeah, he gets eaten by wolves in that.
Yep.
You know. So great actor. Really loved him. Lindy Booth, who was in Dawn of the Dead. So we've already reviewed that. She was also in a movie called Cry Wolf, which I'm a huge fan of. The director of that now works for Blumhouse. Um doing like he did like Truth or Dare and Fantasy Island, bunch of the ones that people hate on, because they're like PG-13 fluff horror films. I don't mind Truth or Dare. I kind of liked it. I don't know.
Truth are there. There's another movie that was kind of in that same stable around that time. It was based around more of like a survival video game, but it was a horror movie one. It was called Stay Alive.
Stay Alive. I want to do that eventually for horror film lovers. Like I love that movie so much.
What year
But
was that?
2006, I want to say. Let me find out. I want to say it's either 2005 or 6, but I'm gonna say 6. So let's find out if I'm right. Yep, 2006.
Okay.
Um, I forgot Frankie Muniz is in that movie.
Yes, he
And
is.
he has one of the best like scenes where he's like playing the video game and he's just like so happy and smiling. And I'm like, there's my little Malcolm in the middle. And he's now like a race car driver, if I'm correct. Am I correct on that? But
Actually, he was for a while. I'm not sure if he still does it, but no, you are right though. But he was doing that for a period of time.
let's see. Yeah. Not sure. I guess. Um, whoa. On November 30th, 2012, Frankie Muniz suffered a mini stroke at the age of 26. That sucks. Probably why he's okay with doing all those stuff like race car driving, like stuff like that will really make you start thinking, like I gotta start doing whatever I want to do with my life.
Get out there and live it,
I'll start
'cause
up. Yeah.
you have
Uh,
no idea what's waiting for you on the other side.
no, you do not. But anyway, I do want to do Stay Alive at some point. I love that movie.
I did too. I was actually a big fan of that one. Like it was like you said, it's one of those classic ones where like you don't necessarily have to make an R-rated movie. It's like, even though I like the over-the-top gore stuff, which clearly would be rated R movies, I still have love for the PG-13s if it's written and done right. And Stay Alive was definitely one of those ones that checks those boxes for me. It was a great premise. They still had good ways of killing the people that still scared you and stuff. Um, and like I said, it was just overall a good story.
yep. So after Kevin Zegers and Lindy Booth, we got Julia Richings, who um he plays one of the he plays Three Finger. I guess he had three fingers, you know, um on there. And he was known for, like, I remember him Supernatural, the TV show Supernatural. He played like, I want to say Death or something. Um he played either Death or Famine. He played one of the Four Horses of the Apocalypse, which was great. It was kind of cool to see. Let me see which one he played. He played Death. Okay.
Okay.
So he played Death in the so the Grim Reaper, basically. And so he comes in like season 5, and it's it was interesting to see him in that. And then later he's in the rest of the seasons as Death, as the Grim Reaper, which is fucking cool. Like, to me that's awesome to see, like, that that was neat. I always love that, like, when I get to see people who sort of are these like mythic character things. Like, you don't see death personified. Like, even in Final Destination movies, which we're eventually going to do part 3 because that's my favorite of the bunch, and stuff. Um,
Really? Part three is your favorite?
part 2 or 3, like, tied, kind of. But yeah, I love roller coasters. So when part 3 came out and it was about a roller coaster, I was like, yes. Like, now I get kind of scared when I ride roller coasters.
Well, what? My wife actually is a big advocate that, in her opinion, that one of the best, her definition of great horror films are ones that make you stop and think. Like, and for her examples were like, for example, like Psycho. When you watch Psycho, you always get that inkling of like when you're in the shower, is someone out there?
Right.
Uh, or like Jaws, like it freaked people out to go in the water and stuff. Or like for me, like when I saw Kingdom of the Spiders, like that thing gave me arachnophobia for decades.
Arachnophobia gave me arachnophobia,
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that one too. Like, yeah, trust me, when I was starting to get over Kingdom of the Spiders, that movie came out. Yeah, that didn't help me. That kind of set me back a few more years.
it's funny. I've never, like, even knowing Jaws or whatever, I was never afraid, because I don't think I ever went far enough where, like a big shark would be, in the ocean. I never swam that far out. I kind of kept pretty close by. So that never really freaked me out. But I was just watching Cujo, and that's basically Jaws with a dog, you know,
True.
and that freaks me out a little bit more, knowing that, like, there could be a rabid dog out there somewhere, and everything.
I mean, it definitely happens. I mean, there are plenty of reports to back that one up.
Yeah. So that's a good one. I review that yet? I haven't reviewed it yet, but I'm gonna be reviewing it for Horror Film Lovers. No, well, I think it's Blu-ray Hunter reviews. One of those reviews. I'm gonna be doing that. So I'm really excited because I actually really, really like that one. Um, you know, uh, so let's see. Um, and then Gary Robbins plays Sawtooth. I'm not sure which one that was. But unfortunately, he died in 2013 at the age of 56, so that's sad. Um, he was a professional wrestler. Um, so what was his wrestling name? He competed under the names Paul Bunyan and the Canadian Giant. Do you know
Oh,
those names?
the Paul Bunyan one, I actually do remember.
Yeah, so he was Paul Bunyan and he was Sawtooth in Wrong Turn.
Yeah, he was the real big, tall one. He was the one that actually, ironically enough, because we were talking about a little bit, he's the one that actually killed Jeremy Sisso with the bow and arrow. Like he was the one that was shooting it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was such a sad death because he thought he was gonna get away. He was gonna get in the truck and he was there. He was getting there and then one and he kept trying to go and then another one and you were just like, nope, he's done. Like, and it's sad because like you have like Emmanuel Shrieky who, you know, died, yeah, or well, dies later, but like she was like
Yeah, cool.
she was surviving and then like she has to watch her boyfriend die. And then like at one point I think she wanted to die because of that, Like she
Yeah,
didn't want to keep
give up, and Elijah Dushku kind of had to like pull her together and get her to keep going and stuff.
but it was
Although,
for naught, because she dies, you
yeah,
know?
although I will give credit too, though. She had a pretty cool one though. Like as far as the deaths go, like I like that was one of the more memorable ones in the film for me. Like when I think about wrong turn kills, her kill is definitely one that pops up in my head because I the whole like guy chop right here at the mouth and just seeing the whole like top of the head just sliding down the
Uh,
blade. Okay, that's cool.
yeah. It's funny when you write horror films, you have to think of like horrible ways to kill people and everything. And that's what I've told people. I haven't really written like a horror movie in a long time because they really put you in a dark place, because like that's what you're thinking about. You're thinking about like murdering people. Like even if it's not like real people, obviously it's characters in your movie, but like you're thinking of ways like different ways that you could kill somebody. So you as a writer have to go like, okay, I want a head to like slide off. So how do I make that happen? And so you have to think about it and you have to come up with these things. And that just puts you in a really like, I don't know, really dark place, in my opinion. I don't know. I know you say you're not a writer, an actor, you're a producer, you do that stuff. But I'm sure Dave, when he's working on the bloody summer camp stuff, after a while it kind of takes a little bit of a little bit of a toll on you because you're constantly thinking about murder, which isn't a very nice place to be in, you know.
Yeah, but as he says, when it gets to my kills, it's all worth it.
Oh, he's got big plans for you, buddy.
Here's
He's
what I get to. Now this is where my stress reliever comes in.
you're his you're his Bruce Campbell to his Sam Raimi, you know. And which is funny because he just likes to torture you as much as possible. And you're okay with it. Just like Bruce is. Bruce seems to be okay with it. Like if he wasn't, he would tell him, but he's like, sure, you can abuse me all you want, you know.
Hey, I enjoy it. I mean, I love what we do. I love what we make. So yeah, for me, it's just pure fun.
I got to chat, last night with the special effects guy for the Evil Dead, and
Oh,
he also did the Within the Woods and some of the other stuff. And uh it was it was awesome because he was telling us basically a lot of that stuff, like a lot of that special effects and all of that gore and stuff was made up on the spot. They didn't like plan a lot of this stuff. They were just like Sam was like, "Can you do this?" And he was like, "Well, do you want this or do you want this?" He goes, "Let's go with that." And so they would go and do something like, eyes gouging and like hands getting ripped and all these things. and they were just he was new to everything. He wasn't a big time Tom Sullivan was not a big time special effects guy. So he's just kind of, making it happen with like whatever they had there and all this crazy stuff. So I'm like, God dang, man, that is incredible.
Yeah.
And so I mean, on a movie like Wrong Turn, there's a makeup effects guy that probably knows what they're gonna do from the very beginning of the concept of it, Like they have the script and then they know what to, you know what I mean? But in this case, like that's crazy. Who was the special effects people for this? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I will say one thing. If they had to do any things on the spot, you can't tell because it all looks very organic to me, like the flow of the kills and everything and what happened. Even though I know we kind of skipped ahead, but the first two friends, the kid from uh, um, um,
Airbud.
yeah, thank you from Airbud and Frozen, and then the girl from Dawn of the Dead. Like after they get killed and they get brought back to the cabin and they get all like butchered and sawed up and everything. Like I said, it all like I guess what I'm saying is like I didn't see a single death throughout Wrong Turn that I felt like was half-assed. Like in other words, like
Right.
every one of them were very much like planned and were done down to design. Like sometimes you can tell a killer like, oh, you probably had that probably lined up, but something probably happened. I mean, we've been caught in pinches like that before. Like and you just gotta find workarounds to get around it and stuff. But I think they are. Like they just to me came off as one of those ones that like I don't know if you all really had any problems. If you did, then you already had some good backup plans in your back pocket.
I just looked it up. It was Stan Winston Studios. So it's people from Stan Winston Studio that did it, that did the makeup effects. So not Stan Winston. I don't think he had passed by then, right? Like I don't know, or is he still alive? I don't. Let me make sure of that because I don't want to. He might still be alive. Um,
Could be.
no, 2008. So he was still alive back then when he did it. I guess the last one he worked on, well, it said makeup effects designer for the original T-800. So for Terminator Dark Fate. Um, but he had done yeah, man, Stan Winston was an incredible influence in the makeup effects, world, you know. Um, so anyway, his company and studio did the effects, and I don't know anybody's name offhand. I looked them up, and didn't see anybody that stood out. It's not like K and B effects or something where you're like Greg Nicotero, or whatever did the effects for this movie. It was just some people who I'm sure have done a lot of movies and a lot of stuff, but I just wasn't, I was not familiar with names. But they did people at Stan Winston Studios did a fantastic job at the special effects in this movie. So,
I would
um,
100% agree with you on that one. Like I said, like for me, like Wrong Turn and Hatchet were both in that kind of subgenre of like horror had a few directions it was going in at that time. The found footages, the paranormal ones were also taken off. The like the classic who's done it slashers like the screams. I know what you did last summers and the urban legends and stuff that they kind of were bringing out their own angle where like you knew who the killers were and knew what you were getting into. It was more of biting your nails of who these people are you hoping are going to get out alive.
exactly. So, since makeup master Stan Winston was pivotal in the key design of the Mountain Men, in particular now postmodern horror icon Three Finger. This marks the second last major horror film he has been involved with before his death in 2008 at age 62, and the third slasher horror film that he had been involved in following uncredited work in Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3, and the latter of which he had been a core designer of the original hockey mask of also horror icon Jason Voorhees and the respective mongoloid appearance of Jason in the part and those two parts. So I did not know he had did uncredited work on the Friday the 13th part 2 and 3. That's
Oh,
awesome, you know. Um,
I
but
mean, Sam Raimi. Not Sam Raimi. Geez, God, why am I drawing a blank now all of a sudden? Uh, the one who did the remake of Night of the Living Dead. The special effects artist who did Dawn of the Dead.
right, was it? Uh, especially oh, you mean Tom
Oh,
Savini?
yeah, I think Tom Savini. Yeah. But yeah, like we all, you always kind of think to him because he did the effects in the first one and
Well, he did
stuff.
the effects in the first one. In the second movie, he couldn't do the effects for the second movie because they were filming at the same time. I think like The Burning was filming or one of those other ones. So he left and went on that, and they did, the effects for somebody else came in and did it. But and whatnot. But yeah, Tom Savini is is an incredible artist. And
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
but we'll take that away from the man.
yep. Um,
That actor either. He's done some pretty good roles I've really enjoyed him in.
and From Dusk Till Dawn comes to mind, where he had
Now that he did.
penis gun.
Yep,
Uh,
Romeo.
a great part, and it looked like he had a lot of fun. Like if you watch that like behind the scenes, that's one of my favorite behind the scenes documentary. Is called Full Tilt Boogie, and it's from Dusk Till Dawn, and it's basically the it's like an hour and a half long thing where they talk to almost everybody in the cast and crew of that were like pivotal, including like George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino's assistants to find out what they do on set, for these films. And you find out he'll get his coffee and that like George Clooney has a specific mug that he likes to have his or Quentin Tarantino, what I mean, does that, whatever. And you don't want to wake them up at a certain time in the morning because they get cranky and
Uh,
they know all of these things about them, or whatever, and they'll do whatever they need them to do. And I just love that. When I watched that documentary, I saw all those people and how much they, how much fun that they were having on that set. I just love it. And so might watch that tonight because I haven't seen that in forever. It's a classic. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
oh yeah, well, not the documentary, but Dussel, Dawn. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, From Dusk Till Dawn is a classic.
Oh yeah, but ironically enough, I know my wife and I watched it. It was only a few weeks ago we actually watched it because I think it was on It was either on Netflix or it was on HBO. It was on one of the two. But I remember like they had the first few on. They were like, "Hey, it's been a hot minute since I've sat down and watched these." So we sat down and watched them. I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I would need to start putting these
I
back in the house to watch more frequently around the year again."
I watched the first one and the second one, the one that had like Bruce Campbell and Tiffany Amber Thiessen in the first 5 minutes of the movie or whatever, and I think it was the second or third. I think the second was directed by Scott Spiegel, or whatever. And I liked it, but I didn't like it. It's hard it's hard to do a sequel like that of such a specific movie like that because then you're just basically like hopping the movie in some way or another. Like you can't really make an original movie out of From Dusk Till Dawn, You just pretty much have to do the movie again. You have to have another group of people that have to deal with vampires in a titty bar, you know. Like
Mhm.
that's it. I mean, really after that, because unless you just because the whole, especially even the title is called From Dusk Till Dawn. So the idea is like, unless you have to make it where it's like the From Dusk Till Dawn is an actual part of the movie where, the person says, "Oh, it's dusk right now, and we've got till dawn to get this done," or whatever, right? but like the whole idea is from dusk till dawn is actually the part in the sign. They're open from dusk till dawn, and because that's when the fucking vampires can come out and play, you know, and everything. So
Have a good double entendre on the name.
yeah, and I like it called the Titty Twister. I think Tarantino had so much fun like writing that movie, and from what I understand, it was like a script that's been in the works before Tarantino was even Tarantino. You know, he had
Um,
uh he had worked with this is off topic, very off topic, but he had worked with Scott Spiegel on or he became friends with Scott Spiegel um because like he got invited to a party or something. He met Scott and then he met Lawrence Bender, who became his producer, and which I always wondered about Scott was ever mad because, like here comes Tarantino and says, "Hey, I want this guy now," and stuff. And now the producer who's helping him with Intruder's a fantastic movie.
oh,
Uh,
yeah, true. I like the grocery store one.
yeah, the one inside the grocery store. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that movie.
that is a little classic of mine.
That was the movie that helped Tarantino. So Tarantino had known that movie and wanted to meet Scott. So they introduced whatever, they did that stuff. And then he had met K and B, the guys, the K and B people, and they had a idea for a movie. And they said, they wanted to do a vampire movie because they had the knowledge to do all these vampire stuff. And, they wanted to do it inside uh inside a strip club. And so he comes up with, he writes the script on like very low budget, like, somebody paid him very low, and it didn't get made for a while, until Tarantino was big and Robert Rodriguez was big and they wanted to work together, and stuff. And then here you go. And we don't get that anymore. Like, we don't have filmmakers like wanting like that. Like, I think in the indie world we had the VHS guys, right? So we had the
Mm.
people making the movies, the VHS, but they weren't. I don't know if those guys like hung out together, like Robert Rodriguez like I see Tarantino and Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez all like getting together every now and then and going to Tarantino's house and watching movies or something, You know what I mean? Like I could see that. I don't know if that's really true or not. That happens, but that's like in my mind, that's what they do. And we don't really have that anymore, in my opinion. Like
I,
name a couple filmmakers all hang out together.
oh, yeah, and I would definitely agree because I mean there have definitely been cases of that in the past where we know that like in all different walks of life like there was a time where like Ben Affleck and Kevin Smith were practically inseparable like they were the best of pals and would hang out
Yeah,
and stuff. I mean, a lot of times, like like actors and directors, like especially, just they develop like bonds where like they just know that there are so many things that I don't have to worry about with you. Like like and it goes on both sides. Like I know I can work with you, and I know there's not going to be any craziness that I need to worry about, or you're going to put my life in danger any which way. You
right.
care what happens to me and stuff. I mean, like you could say Burton and Johnny Depp even. God, what director? There was one director back in
Tim
the day.
Burton. Tim Burton used Johnny Depp all the time.
Yeah, no, no, I know Burton and Depp. But like there was one director back in the day that used to love using Marlon Brando all the time.
Um,
I'm trying to, I'm drawing a blank on that director's name now, um, but yeah, like I said, there's just that thing. Like sometimes you just see really great talent, and you're like, yep, you are staying close to me, or they just mesh well and they get each other up. But even sometimes other directors just have that mutual love and respect for each other. Like I know Zack Snyder and James Gunn have that kind of relationship. They're very tight and they're very good friends, and they definitely have each other's backs on most things. Anytime we would ever need assistance, they would be there to help each other.
I'll bring another one up. Dave Kerr and Michael McGlynn.
Ah, I'll go with
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah. I don't I have a feeling you guys are gonna be inseparable, like period, like there might be one or two movies at some point that you just can't be a part of or something. You're doing something else or whatever. You just can't be a part of, but you'll be back the next movie, or whatever. Like it's so funny that he's just gotta stop killing you off because when you do the sequel, you gotta come back. I mean, how many times can you play a twin or something of your character, or whatever. Not
Well,
every movie.
my wife actually, funny enough, she made a joke to Dave Kerr recently. Actually, she actually told Dave that, yeah, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you do a Bloody Summer Camp 3 and you bring my husband back again, you've got to give him some kind of line with like Felissa, where Felicia's like, you know what? You look like just like this camp counselor and this cop that I used to know. And then my response would be like, "Oh, what were you saying? All of us white people look alike?" Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah, from Hatchet.
That's great. Yeah, that is great. That'll be a great little homage, you know. Um, God, yeah, and yeah, Melissa keeps coming back, so it's
I,
wonderful.
yeah,
Um,
she's a bit of a mainstay for us. We just love her, and she helps us out a lot. And she helps us, find people, or if we need connections to get something. Sometimes she knows people. She'll just throw our name out there, and they'll be like, "Oh, she says you're good, so what can we do for you?"
exactly. That's very sweet. I love her. Uh,
She's she's very sweet.
she's always sweet. I want to work with her, but it's got to be a project like, you know what I mean? Like, it can't just be any project or whatever that I pitch to her. It's got to be something that I'm like 100% ready to go. And this is it. This is going to be the one that we're going to, going to put her back on the map. She's already on the map, but put me and her on, like together, on the
And
map.
she's got a really fun range to her too. I've told people, if you really want to get a good idea of how good Felissa can take her skill set, she did this one movie. It's called I believe it was uh, 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 Guns and Garlic Powder, or
I have
Garlic.
that movie.
Yeah, where she plays like an Italian mafioso boss. I was actually quite impressed by her
I thought
doing that.
she was great in it. I love the director. He unfortunately did one of the worst movies in a while, but he's done other great movies, so kind of makes up for the one bad movie, and you know what I'm talking about. Right? You
Oh
know,
no.
Death, Death something. Fuck. It's the one with all the big time people in the world. Uh,
Oh, yeah, it had like that big giant all-star cast, and like in the jail.
Yeah. So B. Harrison Smith, we were friends. Like we know each other. We don't like hang out or anything. We never met in person, but we talked and everything. And I love the dude, but unfortunately, Death House, that was the movie, and it just didn't. It it's sort of like a movie that like, and he's talked about it to me, like why it didn't, why it didn't do so well, And I feel bad because it had the greatest idea, and even I had an idea similar to it, that will never get made now because once that I had this idea called Malicious Seven, and I think I even wrote like the first draft of it and everything, and it was basically a similar plot, but instead of it being mostly inside the prison or whatever, the I think it's a prison or whatever, it was set in a like nut house. It was actually more like Alone in the Dark. I never thought about it. It was more
Ooh.
like Alone in the Dark. Where the people escape the prison thing, the mental hospital, and go on a killing spree. And these are like the most dangerous serial killers known to man. But the idea was like I wanted like somebody like Robert England to be like this mastermind who set everybody free. So then you got Jason, you'd have Kane Hodder, you'd have Tony Todd, you'd have uh, you know, um, one of the leather faces, kind of thing. I don't know who would have been, whatever, but yeah, Brad Dourif would be in it. That was my idea. And then I saw Death House, and I was like, oh, that's way too close to my idea, and it didn't work. And that made me really sad because I'm like, that means now I couldn't do mine, because people will be like, oh, this is just like Death House, and it's not, but
But I was going to say, but it does fall under the category of what a lot of people have said before about remakes and reboots, is that there are a lot of movies out there that had a great concept but missed the mark. So those are the ones that really should be getting that mental focus on doing a remake and a reboot instead of the ones that are already beloved and held dearly. It's
wrong
like,
turn. But I kind of like I agree. I think like movies like Wrong Turn shouldn't be remade because they're so beloved and everything. But movies like Death House, like I've had talks about this, right? Like you can't remake something that's bad unless so like okay, so I was in a movie in 2012, I want to say I acted in it. It's called Plan 9. It was a remake to Plan 9 from Outer Space. Played like in Zombie or whatever, which the director, John Johnson, had talked about it. And he's actually from Charlottesville, so he's not too far from us and
oh,
everything. And his thing was, he said, he was asked if he could remake any movie at all, what would he remake? And he goes, I'd remake Plan 9 from Outer Space, but I'd make it good, you know, right? Like I'd make a good version of it. And that got a lot of flack for saying that too, because when you're saying like I'll make it good or whatever, you're saying the movie itself is not good, which is not, right? Like people know it's like viewed as one of the worst movies of all time. But people like that. They like the idea that it's a bad movie, you know? So when they it it's one of those things where I would have wished that, you know, uh I just like people don't like people like pretty much panned Death House. So I wouldn't remake it as Death House. If I remade I would do my Malicious Seven idea, right?
I mean,
Kind of thing.
and if you go that route, I mean, you can still go that route. I mean, people may come out saying that, yeah, it was like Death House, but and people might say, but the turn point is that, like you said, Death House didn't get the best reviews, and it got very mixed at best. That the reviews could come into like it's like Death House, but actually better. Uh, uh, you know, so you've heard that for a lot of movies. I've heard that throughout movies too. People will
Which
compare it to another movie, but they'll say though, but we thought this was better than that.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks when to me it sucks when a movie that I was really excited about, especially because everybody was excited about it. It had like one of the biggest casts, like I mean, Kane Hodder was in it. They were gonna have I think they wanted to have Robert Englund, but it just didn't work out, or whatever for them. I don't know why or whatever, but it didn't work out, so they didn't have him. But they had almost everybody else, and stuff. And I didn't even think Sid Haig was in it, you know. And I mean, so a great freaking cast, and it just I think that became the problem, maybe is
Saturated.
like no, I mean, not just the saturation, but like the idea that that's all that people were that's all it had for it, you know. It had the cat like a big ass cast, and then they didn't have anything to do. Like Rick Stevens is in it, and she has like the smallest part, you know. But it's like, oh, we have Rick Stevens in it for like literally like maybe 2 minutes, because they can't put everybody in it for like 30 minutes, that That's just, you know what I mean? So like you get this thing and then you're like, ah, like it just, I don't know. It didn't work out necessarily, um, but Felissa did a great job, in it. And she was, I mean, right after Death House, she worked with him on, Garlic and Gunpowder. And, that, and did I mean, she produced that movie. I think she even might have produced Death House, but like, I think it's okay. Like it happens. Like once again, it comes down to the script, and when you put so many characters like that in together, it just becomes too much. So, um, but it was, I give it A for effort because they went out and they literally you know, tried to make it fun. Once again, I never even thought about it being these sort of things being like Alone in the Dark, you know.
Uh,
So all right, so let's finish up on talking about
yeah,
Wrong Turn. Um
we got off topic again.
and maybe a little bit. Um so yeah, so we'll probably finish it up here because we have been talking for a while and I didn't even realize that. I just looked down at the time and I was like, "Oh shit." We've been talking for more than an hour already. I think close to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So, um let's wrap this up. So, um honestly, for Wrong Turn, I love the Hills Have Eyes slash Texas Chainsaw Massacre style of it. It feels grim, but it does still feel like 2003. Doesn't feel like 1970s something or whatever. It it's smart, in a way. Like the characters eventually try to figure out how to get out. They try to steal the car to, these, I would keep on to say creatures, but they're like human, just, um, very, deformed human beings who, I don't know, they eat cannibals. I mean, they eat the people. So they're cannibalistic, deformed creatures, much like Hills Have Eyes, or whatever. There's these mutant things, which once again, Hills Have Eyes, you don't understand why any of this is happening. It just is, just thrust into this world where this shit is happening and you have to figure out what to do, what to do about it, So, I really, really, really enjoy that. Um,
And
and
their analogy too. It really kind of was like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hills Have Eyes, modern day love letter. Kind of makes you gotta wonder when the Hills Have Eyes remake came out. I wonder if maybe Wrong Turn kind of inspired them to uh, do that. Which, by the way, everyone who's watching, if you're a fan of the Hills Have Eyes, you have not seen the remake of the Hills Have Eyes or its sequel. I highly recommend them. Me personally, at least. I enjoy both of them, and I thought the Hills Have Eyes remake was a really good, solid remake, very similar to like Jessica Biel's Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I thought that was a very solid remake. Hit all the major points you'd want a remake to hit from your original, but still gave you enough to make it feel like it stood on its own.
now I think you might be right. I'm gonna look this up real quick, but I think you might be right. I think the Hills Have Eyes remake, which was 2006, might have been inspired by both Wrong Turn and Texas Chainsaw remake, which I think was 2003 as well. So I think both of them came out the same year.
I mean, but like I said, this could have definitely paved the way. Like I said, there was a lot of really good slashers coming out in the early 2000s. There were some real big winners.
All right, he says Wes Craven, director and writer of The Hills Have Eyes, considered a remake after he saw the success of other horror remakes such as Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Amityville Horror. So yeah, it was Texas Chainsaw that really did that because Texas Chainsaw came out the same year as Wrong Turn, and both those did, I think, fairly well enough where at least they became franchises, or whatever. Well, Texas Chainsaw already was a franchise, but
Uh,
they
but it's both
continued.
equal.
But
It did like the Jessica Biel one did sprawl spawn a prequel because of its success, and it's actually really good.
I honestly, I'm not, there's not really that many bad Texas Chainsaw movies, except I will say the newest one was not, I was not a fan of it. Just because I felt like they too modernized it, where they threw in a lot of uh just stuff, that agenda and stuff that I'm just like, we don't need this in a horror film, Like I feel like horror films a lot of times they're trying to get away from like the political shit that's going on. Unless it's a political story, horror film or whatever. But like a lot of those political agendas and political things and stuff, I feel like horror films they try a lot of times to not put that in, because it's
It's
just
for me at least. I don't go to watch my horror movies to be informed. I go to escape and to enjoy good kills. Occasionally, sometimes get thrown for a curve and get a good twist thrown my
mhm.
way. Um, that's kind of more of my thing. It's like if I want to do any of those kind of things, I'll go to whatever news outlet I want to go to
Right.
coverage.
Exactly. But I don't know. Anyway, so but yeah, I am not really a big fan of the Texas Chainsaw um reboot that they did for Netflix or whatever. Like they're like, no interest in that.
Yeah,
But most of the ones, there's been like one or two that might be pretty bad. Like a lot of people have said the next generation or whatever. A lot of people fan on that one, you know.
good
I
in there. I mean, Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey
I mean it
movie.
sounds like it's fun for me. I never saw it. Not that I don't want to, it's just I never did. I might do it for 90s horror at some point. I don't know, but
It's worth a watch. I mean, I really don't think you're going to come out saying like that was a solid sequel, but I
I
mean,
don't think, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go in expecting a solid sequel either. So I
yeah.
think I'm gonna go in expecting trash and maybe a little happy, maybe not. I mean, maybe,
If you go with that mentality, you might come out okay on that.
yeah. So, anywho, yeah, I don't know. I like this, what is it? I love this movie, and once again, it spawns sequels and made six sequels and a remake, So, uh,
And some of the sequels are really good. I really enjoyed part two a lot. I thought that was really good. The one we were talking about earlier, Last Resort, where they get caught up in that abandoned asylum in the snowstorm. That one I would actually say is probably my second favorite. And you said that was number six in the franchise?
yeah, that was number six. That was the last one in the franchise before um, they did what is it? The reboot. Um, that's weird. So there's a Wrong Turn series, that was made in 2022, but it isn't uh, she's not, it's not a Wrong Turn like inspired thing. It's a Hulu series. And it looks like it's from like maybe the UK or something, from another country. Oh, it's not even that. It's Yeah. So it's just called Wrong Turn, and it says like Sapna has a fear of abandonment. The spirit drove her into killing her boyfriend, and now she's on to Karan, her sister-in-law's Janvi's fiance. Her dangerous mind is now plotting a plan so that Karan can be all hers.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with Wrong Turn. I'd be very disappointed if I saw that on Hulu, you know. But like weirdly enough, it says it's on like Hulu. It said, or no, wait, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It says Ulu Originals. I don't know what Ulu is. It's ULLU. I feel like that's whatever country this is. That's their version of Hulu, maybe. I don't know, but Ulu.
Ulu. Ulu.
and it's still a wrong turn from us. But a wrong turn series would be pretty cool if they went back to the Mountain Men. I'd watch that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could definitely do a good one of that, or maybe like you get like some like survival group that's out there, like for like a long survival weekend, or like around in the middle of it, and like each like episode you lose like one or two of the people, and till it gets down to like the final episode where you can make whatever decision you want to make. Is like that was one of the great things about the wrong turn ones is like about that series is like they never kept that set in stone. There were some seasons where I'm sorry, there were some movies where like you had a survivor or two. Then there were other ones in the long term series where like there were no survivors. So it always kept you guessing at least a little bit on that front because you didn't know what kind of ending you were getting. Were you getting everyone's wiped out, or you get the one or two low survivors?
It could be really cool if you did it where like the main characters were the killers, you know, and stuff instead of the and instead of the people there. So like each episode, everybody, they kill everybody in each episode, so the next group of people come and it's almost like a brand new movie each episode. So each 50 minutes long is like one episode of, the show or whatever, like as if it were a movie. I don't know. That might be a little bit too much. Because then it would be like like kind of boring, like 'cause you want somebody to survive, right?
Well, I mean, you gave me another great idea for like a TV series for that too, where like you just have a bunch of like each episode would just be a different group of people, and you can even have fun with it because there's a big time gap from Daily Resorts to them going out to West Virginia to the events of the first Wrong Turn movie. There is like a very significant gap. I think it's like 18, 19 year gap of them where you could have fun just inserting different instances like out in the mountains of West Virginia, especially when you see the very first wrong turn when he pulls up at that gas station, all those missing peoples, all of those could easily be like a season story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can have all these different people and everything, and then have like 4 or 5 seasons just of everybody dying every episode, like like a whole bunch of people just getting murdered, and but there have to be one connection, like other than the villains, the family or whatever. You'd have to have like somebody in the town, like in the West Virginia town, trying to stop this stuff, like the sheriff or something, or whatever, like that is trying to solve this to stop these guys, but can't, you know, because like at the end of Wrong Turn, the sheriff comes or whatever, the cop comes, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" Blah blah blah, and then he gets killed,
Mhm.
right? Like pretty quickly and stuff, and then Desmond Harrington is like underneath the car driving, back to the th back to on the truck, driving back to the to their house, And I was like thinking at first, I was like thinking, why the fuck is he doing that? I was like, that's fucking smart because now they're leading him to her. Otherwise, he'd have to walk all the way back there, and he might not be able to save her. I'm like, God damn, he's smarter than I am. I never would have thought to do that. Like, I would have probably thought to just maybe jump on the back of it or something if I could figure out a way. But then that guy would have heard at some, like I had no idea that he was underneath the truck, the car or whatever it was. So the
Yeah.
police car, So that's insane. Um, Also, if he hadn't, like, because my other thought was get the fucking keys so you can go, and I'm like, wait, now, like, when he got there, I was like, he didn't know where that house was again, like, right?
Mhm.
Like, he had no idea. So this guy, he fucking smart. He knew what to do.
Well, I mean, and you're right too. I mean, it's like, there's no like I don't think the average person, unless you are very familiar with like the woods or like that certain terrain where they were at, like getting like lost in that kind of terrain, like out in the middle of nowhere and getting turned around real easily. Yeah, I mean that is like him losing his bearings or where that camera was to find her. Yeah, I mean he definitely made the smart move because I don't think there's any way he would have figured that out. His only bet would be that he just followed the road trail that he sees the truck go off and hopes
And
he can keep up with it.
right, and that might take forever.
Yeah.
Walking down that road to go to wherever that was, because that did look like it drove a while, to get there. So he's holding on this thing, goes down there, and he's able to come over there and help save Eliza Dushku, So I really I was like, God damn, he's smart. But I mean, obviously, as a writer, thinking that for him, right? Because in my mind, I never would have thought go underneath the car and hold on to that thing. I probably would have said no because I would have been afraid that I would fall and that I would just get run over, or whatever, you know. But he survives. It's kind of almost like a Scooby-Doo kind of cartoonish kind of thing. Like you never see somebody actually underneath the car like that, holding on.
Not
Almost
since
like
Indiana Jones.
what?
Not since Indiana Jones.
Yeah, something like that, like Indiana Jones. But yeah, maybe that's where he got it from. Would have been nice if he wore like a little hat and people called him Indy, and then so later he does an Indy thing. I don't know.
You
Uh,
know, he could be a good replacement when you think about it. Like if they wanted to keep on doing the Indiana Jones series per se, but just start with the younger years again and just get a new actor like and stuff. He could actually probably that same guy could actually possibly pull it off.
oh, does he look like that still? Like,
Well, have
I
to.
don't, I know
I'm
to see.
Yeah, I'm going on the last time I saw him in anything, which probably would have been Dexter. So that's probably at least a good like what, like 5, 6 years ago.
Let me see if this because he has a picture on IMDb. And but this is 2016. This hasn't been updated since then, so I don't know what he necessarily looks like now, like that. But whatever. I mean, uh,
No
uh
one can change that.
unfortunately, we'll never get that. Um, if they do reboot Indiana Jones in some way or another, like they do another movie like they did the Dial of Destiny or whatever. Um it'll most likely be with a woman, you know? Like that's just what they were they were trying to do is pass the torch to a random character who's not related to Indiana Jones, I don't think.
Uh,
And just give it to some, and I don't think it worked because it's like, you know, going back to Supernatural, which is one of my favorite TV shows, they tried two or three different ideas for spin-offs, right? And the
hmm?
first one was a bunch of vampires that like a family of vampires you had never met before. And they were like trying to pass this off as this is the new show. And I'm like, nah, I don't like it. And apparently nobody liked it because it didn't, nobody ended up making it. Then they did one that had like Catherine Newton and a couple other people that were actually on the show before, you know, and stuff. And that would have been better. But you know, I'm just I'm sick of people who don't have anything to do with the series becoming like the person who takes over the series. You know?
Yeah.
Like even wasn't Shia LaBeouf the son or something of Indiana Jones?
Yeah, and Crystal Skull. So yeah, that's what I was saying. He was that same adventurous type. They even locked in the original girl from from not from Temple of Doom, from Lost Ark and everything. It's like you wrote it all in. I mean, outside of the fact that the whole alien route, people got mixed on that one a little bit. I can see why a little bit. It didn't really feel like it had that same pizzazz that the first three had. Um, but compared to that last one, yeah, that was it made the Crystal Skull look a lot more tolerable for me at least. But
It's kind of sad when because everybody was it's so funny how everybody talks smack about a movie until like a worse movie comes along. They're
and
like,
then
man, that one's not that bad, you know.
so it could actually be worse, and here it is.
Somebody was like, oh, it can't be nothing could be worse than this one. And then Disney says, hold my beer.
Oh yeah.
And then they go and they make a worse movie. And once again, a lot of that came down to politics, like introducing all this different politics into the world of Indiana Jones that never had any of that. Like Indiana Jones was just an adventure show movie, like it had nothing to do with it did have Nazis, it, but Nazis are bad, you know, right? Things like that. Like that's very simple, you know? I just don't get it. I don't get it at
I,
all.
there.
What?
Yeah. Oh, I was saying I don't get it either, but I mean, that's them.
That is them. So, anywho, I'm very glad that this got a sequel, which was first sequel was Wrong Turn 2, which was directed by Joe Lynch, who
Ah, Jet Lynch.
I know, 'cause you're a huge Adam Green fan. Since you're a big, huge Adam Green fan, you know of Joe Lynch because they're like best buddies,
Oh yeah.
and everything. I
Did a
think
phenomenal TV series, Holliston together.
they did that. I think, if I'm correct, Joe was in the Tiffany Problem, one of the shorts that
Yes,
Adam did. Um, So there was a bunch of filmmakers in that, like Ryan Schifrin was in that, and a bunch of other great, like once again, see those that could have been like that could be like the new Tarantino and Rodriguez in them because there's Adam Green, Joe Lynch, Ryan Schifrin, all of them are all best friends, but you don't really hear about it anymore.
you
Like
they'd have no problem getting talent. I mean, I think I've showed you my Hatchet movie post before. Like every one of those celebrities, like I got all like the big names from all the entire Hatchet franchise, 1 through 4. They're all on there, and that was always the question I asked them all point blank was like, how was it like working with Adam? And all of them. What was scary to me was all of them. Not exactly verbatim, but all of them said pretty much the same exact message. Absolutely love working with Adam. If Adam ever contacted me and needed me to ever help out with any of his films, I would drop everything to be there in a heartbeat. The fact that I'm hearing that, I was hearing this from Robert England. I was hearing this from Caroline Williams. I was hearing this from Sid Haig. I was hearing it from
Felissa Rose, I'm sure.
oh, Melissa was a very big diehard advocate. Actually, even Dave Sheridan actually speaks very highly of Adam Green. Too as well. It's like I said, there's just not a single person like, and I think I've got something like 18, 19 celebrity autographs like on my Hatchet poster, and all of them absolutely rave about him and just how much they love
Yes.
working with him, and they would all do it again in a heartbeat.
Even like I know Adam and Danielle Harris, but they'll work together again in a second,
Oh,
from
I think they actually have a very good tight relationship because even before she did Hatchet 2, like, she wanted to be in the first one, and I went a different route because he was afraid too many people would look at her at like Jamie Lloyd and stuff. And now I've talked to a lot of their celebrities and got a little insight on that one. All of them seem to think that it came down mostly to it was a money thing that like yeah she saw how well the franchise was taking off and wanted a very significant increase to the point where it wouldn't have worked. And not only that, Danielle would actually be cheaper and stuff. And so Adam actually did go back to Danielle, and Danielle actually made him like it was something along the lines of Daniel's like, all right, well, I'll do it, but you gotta like do, but you gotta tell me right now that you made a big mistake and that I should have been the one you chose all the way from the very beginning, and Adam did.
which is so funny because like the girl that was in the first Hatchet was great,
Oh
but
no, she did a great job.
Yeah, she was fantastic. But Danielle sort of brought this different approach and different thing to it that I don't think that girl would have delivered.
No,
And I think and then not like saying that the girl's a bad actor, it's just like everybody's different in their take on everything. And I think that Danielle did a fantastic job, and I think so did that girl. So like, you know, was I happy to see Danielle and Hatchet too? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, would I have loved to have seen her in Hatchet 1? Actually, now that I've seen the other girl, I'm happy with Hatchet 1, and everything, like the way it worked out.
I think it was also the angle they were portraying with. It's kind of like the girl in the first one wasn't that strong, independent. I'm here out to mess you up, and like kind of mentality. Yet it was more like she was scared, she was frightened, she wanted to find her brother and her father, and just get out of that swamp of ASAP. She was terrified to be there. And I'm not sure like the really strong, like, I'm taking you out and permanently mentality that Danielle got across so well. I'm not sure she would have sold that as well as Danielle. Maybe I'm wrong on that one, but I mean,
Well,
I feel like Danielle really just hit the mark on that one. But then also vice versa, though, too. I'm not sure Danielle would have been the right one to sell in the very beginning of being the really scared, like, and battered one. Like, she's always kind of
no,
come
no,
off.
I think she would have because at the beginning of Hatchet 2, there's that scene with her like she starts it off basically the same way as the other girl where she's kind of scared, she's in the shower, she's showing her vulnerableness, and stuff like that. I think she would have done a great job, but she would have by the end of it, she would have been that tough fucking cookie. And I think and she would have shown that. And I think she would have done a better job because I think that girl did still sort of, kind of hold back a little bit, you know, and I think Danielle wouldn't have, I think Danielle definitely would not have held back. So,
I did get to meet Adam Green recently, and he did tell me something. I asked him if he was planning on making another Hatchet movie, and his answer gave off like a lot to me. Like his exact words were, "There would have already been at least one, if not two, Hatchet movies out if it wasn't for the writer's strike that happened." So like but and all the other actors like the amazing ones like Perry Shin when I asked him like or like when I asked Daniel Harris or Kane Hodder, they all told me the same thing. Just sit back and stay tuned. So the good news is I think we got some more hatchets coming.
I think so too. And I remember when they did that. We talked about it on the Hatchet episode that we did, but I remember or the Victor Crowley one that we did. That when they announced that, like, that was a big shock to everybody. And that was the point. They didn't want they wanted that under wraps. And I remember a certain somebody telling me that it was happening, that it was before, and they swore me to secrecy at that time. So I didn't say a word, at all that I knew that there was another Hatchet movie. Didn't even tell my parents, didn't tell nobody, because I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is like the coolest secret I've ever had that I know that there's gonna be a fucking new Hatchet movie coming out. And when they announced that whole thing on like I think it was like Dread Central and Fangoria and everything and Bloody Disgusting had all announced that there was a new Hatchet and that they had actually shown it on the big screen during a fake screening of the original movie.
And that was awesome.
Just to me that made and they did that on purpose because they wanted to bring the fans back, they wanted to give the fans that thing, but they didn't want to I think they also didn't want to make it where people are waiting for like a year, for the movie to get done. You know what I mean? Like once you announce a project, like you're announcing Bloody Summer Camp 2, people are like, "Oh my God, I want that movie out now." And you guys haven't even shot it yet. Like you know what I mean? Like people are gonna be cramming for it for the year or 2 years or whatever it takes to fucking make the movie. And for them to go, by the way, the movie's out. Movie's ready, done and everything. Here we go.
I'm pretty sure this will be the same too. Although before I went to meet Adam, because that was only a couple of weeks ago, funny enough, one of my friends on my friend list actually hit me up and he's like, "Hey, I saw your post about how excited you were about to meet him." And apparently he's like, he's been following Adam Green for like the last like 10, 11 years, and he's like, I've kind of gotten to pick up a lot of his patterns, and I got some news that might make you really happy. I'm like, what's that? Is like one thing I've always followed and knows about Adam Green. Adam Green doesn't usually do the con. Like he's not that guy who does it year round, like on his off times. He only does the con circuits when he has something big getting ready to come up. And when I heard about the rush strike and everything else that was there, added thing, I was like, oh, yep, there it is. He's doing the cons because he probably does have this next Hatchet movie getting ready to come out, and you know,
It might be this year, it might be next year, it might be 2026, who knows? But it's most likely there's going to be, if he has said that there would have been a one or two more Hatchet movies, that means he has two more Hatchet movies that's like ready to go, So,
confirms what I heard from one of the other cast members too. Because what I heard was the reason why he went with Victor Crawley is because he's writing a new trilogy, which is going to focus more on the Perry Shin character that was the survivalist from part three.
yep.
Uh, it's going to focus more on him. Daniel Harris is going to be, heavily involved in it too.
Well,
Uh,
she was at the end, or whatever. Like she had the I call it like the Chucky cameo thing where, Alex Vincent is at the end of the like
oh,
one of the movies and he's like, I'm ready to kill Chucky, and Danielle Harris did that kind of thing and stuff. So I like that. So if there's two more movies, then that means there's gonna be a Victor Crowley trilogy that they have planned. So
and let's face it, they're all Hatchet movies, no matter how you slice it. Because like, even Victor Crawley, it follows the events of what happened in Hatchet
Yeah,
One.
it's not like its own movie, it's not like a remake or something, but it's a continuing storyline from so yeah, it's Hatchet number four, and then this would be Hatchet number 5 and 6 without calling it Hatchet. Um, it's kind of like when Jason and maybe Adam would love this, but like when Jason became Jason, and it wasn't Friday the 13th anymore. It was Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, all this stuff because Jason is the Freddy is the thing. It's never about Nightmare on Elm Street. It's about Freddy, Like it's not about Hatchet as a movie. It's about Victor Crowley, you know.
Exactly.
Um,
And another reason I loved Hatchet too is like, anyone who watches, like, who's on, who loves going to the cons and meeting a lot of these celebrities, more likely a lot of you all have already met Kane before. And Kane is absolutely one of the most nicest, sweetest guys you could ever meet. He's also one of the hardest working guys like in the business. And I was happy with the Hatchet series because the Hatchet series is actually his character. Like you can say he was a Jason, but you can't call him the Jason because that would be disrespectful to, in my opinion, to all the other gentlemen who played Jason. And there were a lot of great ones who played the role too. But you Hatchet, that's Kane's. Kane is Victor Crawley. There is no other Victor Crawley besides Kane Hodder.
right. I mean, and that was what Adam wanted, to
He
create
just
a character for Kane Hodder to play that would be iconic to just Kane Hodder, and everything.
the man literally put his body on the line and through the ringer, for the industry. Like, the man deserves to at least have his own franchise, be his franchise. I mean, and it's like you said, like Robert England's got Freddy. Like, even though yeah, they tried doing the reboot, and that was always one of the biggest first arguments. Everyone's like, I want Robert back. I'm like, y'all gonna have to learn to get over that one, unfortunately now, because Robert's pretty much from acting, Robert, I think, is pretty much retired now. And from what I'm hearing, Robert's getting ready to retire after 2024 from cons as well. Like he's hanging it up completely.
Well, I will just say that Kane Hodder tried to steal my wallet once, so I don't know. I'm a fan of his, but yeah, in all fairness, he didn't. This guy, he joked about it, I guess, but I was drunk at a bar and I was leaving, and I left my wallet on the bar, and uh, and this guy came up to me and said, "Hey, you left your wallet on the bar," and I said, "Oh, thank you." He goes, Kane Hodder wanted me to steal it. And I said no or whatever. And I said, thank you. I appreciate it. And I was like, Kane, you know. Love that guy though. We share a birthday together. You
Oh
know,
no!
my sobriety date is his the day that unfortunately the bad stuff happened to him. So I told him that once. I said, I've been sober for, I think at that time I've been sober like for 3 or 4 years, or maybe 5. And I told him that, and he goes, and I said, on my anniversary is July 13th. He goes, did you just say July 13th? You go, yeah. He goes, my anniversary is July 13th, the time that I got burned, you know? And I
Mm.
go, wow, holy crap. Well, then I guess we both got burned. You know? And he goes, I'd rather have your burn than my burned. And I said, me too. Me too. I would
Yeah.
not like to be fucking really actually burned, and be in a burn ward. But if you watch that documentary, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there's an amazing documentary. I think it's on like Amazon or something. It was originally it was called To Hell and Back. And
Oh,
it's his story about how he got burned and the stuff he went through and how he got back into the business.
oh yeah.
And can what
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, all the more reason because I did watch that too, and after watching that, that was like all the more reason why I was so happy that he got his own thing. I mean,
mm,
like, 'cause I think the Hatchets are gonna be one of those ones. Like, one, they're already a cult classic. But I mean, I could see those eventually being looked at and held in a mainstream manner. Like, because believe it or not, given most of the budgets that he got on Evergreen, they would be more considered. They are definitely higher than what most indies are, but they
they're
weren't
still
like.
indies, they're not a studio film, or whatever. Um, but I guess we definitely got off topic this whole episode. So everybody, I appreciate anybody who listened because I mean, we're horror film lovers, so we talk about a lot of horror film stuff. But we really went off topic. So we barely talked about it. Wrong turn, which I feel bad about. And it's already 2 hours in. So we're not going to, continue with that. But I do want to say thank you, Michael. Do you know what your next one's going to be?
Um, actually, you will actually probably be happy because we were talking about earlier, and you kind of got my juices. I was like, that could be a fun one to talk about, actually. So, I'm gonna choose Stay Alive.
All right. See, I knew if I didn't choose it, you're gonna choose it, and I'm very happy if you choose it because then I have other options of other. Because I have a million movies to pick from, and there's gonna be times that you and I are gonna choose things that, either one of us would have on our list. It's funny when Paul gets mad when I pick something from his list, you know, like next season on Indie Film Cafe, we're doing Axum, you know. And he was like, that's on my list. And I'm like, well, do it. And then he goes, all right. And then he does everything else. And I'm like, are you gonna do Axum? He's like, go get to it. I'm like, get to it now. We need to review this movie. People
Oh,
keep talking about it. It's on people's minds. And he's like, and then eventually I had to like say, oh, well, I would have, I tagged him in a thing saying, Paul wouldn't let me do it. So I've got to wait till he does it. And he's like, fine, you do it. So we're doing
oh,
Axum.
Honestly, like if you told me, "Hey, Mike, I really wanted to stay alive for my next one," now like, well, in that case, then we're gonna
No,
do Return Part Six, Deadly Resort, because uh, like I said, that was a very big favorite of mine too. Just because I love the killer slashers, like out in the snow, like the red blood hitting the white snow and stuff.
let
Just a fan of it and stuff. So if
let's
you live, I would have chose that one then.
well, let's wait for another season to do another wrong turn since we just did one, even though we sort of just did one. We talked about everything else other than wrong turn at times, but let's do that like another season, like maybe next season we can do it. But yeah, no, do stay alive. Like I said, I have many options and stuff of things, I've got a list, and so I can't wait to do those.
So
All right.
you worry about that, my friend. Like I was actually just looking for see if it was in no, actually I see it, but it's not in like arm reach. I can see Stay Alive right here in my movie collection, but it's just right up arm's reach. I'm probably about 8 inches away from being able to reach it.
Well, it's funny. I have it for DVD
Me too.
and somewhere in my studio. So I'm probably still because I have a lot of things to go through in my studio. So instead of going through all of them, I may just look on eBay for like a $5, you know, DVD of it or whatever. Sometimes it's at like Goodwill, like or whatever. So I may go to like Goodwill or Restore or something and check and see if it might be there first, or whatever. Second and Charles, something like that. There's tons of places, but if I can't find it, I'll find it. I'll get it. I'll get a new version on. I wish it was on Blu-ray or 4K because I would definitely get
It
that.
deserves a it deserves a Blu-ray run at the very least. I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, everybody, join us next month for a brand new episode where we'll be talking about Stay Alive, which I am so super stoked to talk about. And I can't wait. Worst comes to worst, I can rent it on, Amazon or something, but like for $3, like not a big deal, but it will be a lot of fun. So I can't wait, everybody. Join us then. Until then, everybody, have a good one, and we'll be back next month. Bye, everybody.
Oh yes.